What's going on, guys? It is Will here, back again, once again, for the episode. I don't even know. We're not really counting episodes this year, but the Week 18, yes, Week 18 edition of the Gridiron Talk podcast. Now, usually this late in football, we're already in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. That's what we're doing, but it's a little bit different this year. We got 17 games. We got one more week of football, then the playoffs. If you notice something different, my co-host Shane is not with me this week. It's a long story, but Shane is not here. So I brought out my old man, my old buddy, the one that me and him pioneered this last year. Joey Christmas, aka Mahomes, is filling in for Shane this week. Joey, how have you been, man? Welcome back to the Gridiron Talk podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I feel like Cam Newton going back to the Panthers right now. You know what I mean? But no, I've been doing really good. Watching a lot of football. Especially this week coming up with the extra game. It's like these games either matter a lot or don't really matter at all. So it's going to be interesting. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Always ready to talk about some football. So I'm ready to get going.
Right on. So if you guys didn't know, I'm sure you've heard it because I plug it every time I can when it's me and Shane. But me and Joey do work on another podcast that will be airing tomorrow. We're going to record around 1:30ish tomorrow on the Las Vegas Raiders. It is a premium podcast, so you would have to subscribe to us. But if you do, we would appreciate and love the support very much. We work very hard on that. It's on UltimateSportsNetwork.com. It's called Raider Nation Today. And if you want a podcast that's like this, but we just go even more in depth on one single team, obviously the Las Vegas Raiders, that is the podcast for you. If you want to know more about the Raiders, if you're a big Raider fan, or hell, you just want to listen to me and Joey talk about football, then that's the other podcast to check out. And lastly, the other key point was, also thanks Joey for the thumbnails. Obviously, this is the same Joey for my viewers that does the thumbnails for me every single week. So big shout out to you for doing that. This week, he put DK Metcalf and then two rookie stud receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions and obviously Jamar Chase for the Bengals. So shout out to you, man. But back to my classic catchphrase. With that being said, let's get into the news of this week. So obviously, we're going to go over this one pretty quick, the Antonio Brown drama. I'm sure everybody has heard about that. I won't really go too much into detail on that, but to make a long story short, Antonio Brown's no longer on the Buccaneers. There's a lot of conflicting stories on what's really happening. Antonio Brown was on the Full Ascent podcast yesterday, and he basically was just talking trash to Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. So it's very confusing. If you guys want to know the whole details, I'd recommend checking out the Full Ascent podcast to hear what AB has to say. But it's a lot of drama, and I really won't get into it because it's a big story. Other news we got is that Bobby Wagner, the Seahawks starting star linebacker, is going to miss this game this week against the Cardinals. He is out. For the Cardinals, this is big news. J.J. Watt is set to return from his shoulder injury, which is a huge plus for the Cardinals. He is questionable to play this week, but he will most definitely play in the wild card game. Panthers to keep Coach Matt Rule for the 2022 season after another disappointing season this year. And lastly, Lamar Jackson is out again due to his lingering ankle injury. Tyler Huntley is the start, and we're also going to talk about the future of Lamar Jackson to see how serious his ankle injury is. So, Joey, do you have anything else to add with the news, or just want to go right to the games?
I really got nothing else to add. I'm ready to get to the games.
All right, so let's go into the first game. This game is actually going to be on in about an hour and a half, give or take. This is two AFC West foes. It's the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 11-5, against the Denver Broncos, who are 7-9. And the Broncos are 10.5-point underdogs here. So the Chiefs are seeking the number one seed in the AFC, plus their 13th consecutive win over Denver. So obviously the Broncos have not beaten the Chiefs since Peyton Manning was their quarterback. Me and Shane mentioned that when they last played. But the Broncos have really fallen from earth. They were the last AFC undefeated team, and now they are outside looking in on the playoffs. They can't make the playoffs. They're eliminated. And just a very disappointing end after starting 3-0. So, Joey, my question for you about this game is, where do you see the Broncos' future? Because, me and Shane have talked about before, but I think the Broncos are a quarterback away. I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. And even if they don't get Aaron Rodgers, if they just get like another really good quarterback, I think the Broncos will be a contending team. But what are your thoughts on the Broncos? Do you think they're just a quarterback away, or do you think they're still a couple more pieces away?
I really think that they're I think a coach away and a quarterback away. I've been really impressed to see the Denver defense and even the weapons they have on offense, but it seems like they aren't really coming together. And I do agree with your point. I think having that one solid quarterback, your franchise quarterback, instead of tossing these quarterbacks around every single year, and having a single solid piece quarterback kind of build around them, you already basically have, great weapons around you. So I really think that getting a quarterback, maybe getting a new head coach or offensive coordinator will really help out this team a lot. I mean, they can be a really dangerous team, in my opinion. I hate both these teams, but, I hate to say it, but Broncos are, I think a good team. They're just, kind of limited right now by their coaching and by the quarterback play.
Yeah, I mean, that is a great point. I think the Broncos are they're just right there. I mean, if they can win 7 games with Teddy Bridgewater, I know he's been out. I don't know if he's playing or not. He's had a concussion. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is not the answer for the Broncos. But like you said, to keep on passing these quarterbacks around. They have a new quarterback every season. At one point, it was Case Keenum. At one point, it was Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, Teddy Bridgewater, Drew Lock. They just can't find the answer. I mean, it is hard to replace a guy like Peyton Manning. Don't get me wrong. But, should the Broncos have taken a quarterback this year instead of, Pat Surtain? That's a good question. I mean, should they have taken Mac Jones? Should they have taken Justin Fields? That's a good question, and we won't really know the answer to that. But, it sucks that the Broncos are in mediocrity since Peyton Manning retired. The Chiefs, on the other hand, everyone knows the Chiefs are on a roll. They did lose last week to the Cincinnati Bengals, but regardless, I think the Chiefs are in prime position for another deep playoff run. There's really not much to say. I mean, they got the best offense in football on paper. When they're clicking, they're clicking. They got a great coach, when their defense steps up, their defense is very good. So I think the Chiefs are going to win this game 31-14 and ride their momentum into the playoffs.
Yeah, so I got Shane's pick right here. He picked the Chiefs 30-18. I think that's a good prediction as well. I don't feel like the Broncos are going to really do much in this game. In fact, I'm never for tanking, but, you might see them lose this game on purpose to kind of move up in the draft. Maybe they do select a quarterback this year, or maybe they go out in free agency and get one. But, yeah, I mean, especially with Drew Lock at quarterback, I don't really see this team winning this game against the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are hot right now. They're a hot team. They're on a roll. And they're just getting ready for the playoffs. So I think that's a good prediction.
Leads to our next game, Joey, which is an NFC East battle that is also tonight on Saturday night primetime.
Yeah, so both these teams don't really have much at stake. As really they both clinched a playoff spot. It's kind of interesting to see how, maybe they'll even play each other in the playoffs eventually. We'll see that. But, yeah, like I said, this game doesn't really matter. I know Dallas has some key players out. I think Micah Parsons is out, Trevon Diggs is out, and a couple other guys I can't think of off the top of my head are out for Dallas. And I think that the coach made a statement saying that they're going to play their starters, which is kind of interesting because, this game doesn't really mean much, but I guess they just want to beat the rival. I think the Eagles you're going to see a lot of Gardner Minshew in this game as well. And I think you're still going to see some starters for the Eagles, but you're going to see some more rotation, kind of like a preseason game. I really think this is a glorified scrimmage game, but, we'll see. I got Shane's pick right here. The Eagles 24-23. I like that prediction. I think the Eagles are actually going to win this game, mainly because of the pieces that are out for Dallas. And I think that, Dallas, I don't know, they're not going to play well in Philly. What do you think, Will?
So, yes, Cowboys-Eagles. This is a classic rivalry. The Eagles are 4-point underdogs here. And I think this is going to be a good game. Like you said, the Eagles did get, the Eagles are a completely different team from last time they played the Dallas Cowboys in fall or whatever, early in the year. And the Dallas Cowboys have just looked great all season. They've had their little sputters. They've had their little ups and downs. But overall, I think the Dallas Cowboys have been one of the best NFC teams this year. While the Eagles, on the other hand, now don't get me wrong, I think the Eagles are a solid team, but I really feel like they're benefiting from a very easy schedule. That's nothing against the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't dictate necessarily who they're playing, so it's not like it's the Eagles' fault that they have easy opponents. But one thing I will say is I do like what Nick Sirianni is doing with this team. Now, I wasn't really I'm a Giants fan, so I don't really care for the Eagles regardless. But I was really up in the air about them firing Doug Peterson. He let him, the only Super Bowl win in Philly was with Doug Peterson, so I really thought that was a questionable move to do. But in hindsight, Nick Sirianni has really changed their offense to more so like what the Ravens do, a very run-heavy team, which makes sense when you have a guy like Jalen Hurts. One thing I would like to see from the Eagles is get Devontae Smith more involved. And that's no fault to Smith's nor the Eagles' fault. That's just how the Eagles run their offense. It's kind of like OBJ in Cleveland. OBJ didn't get all that action because how the Browns scheme was. But however, I disagree with Shane's pick with the Eagles. I think the Cowboys win this game 27-21. Mike McCarthy has really, I don't want to say turned this around. I was also not heavy on him getting hired by the Cowboys. I thought that was more of a publicity pick for Jerry Jones. But I do really like what Mike McCarthy has done with the Cowboys this last year. And last year and this year, last year he almost led to the playoffs with Andy Dalton. So I think the Cowboys are going to win this game 27-21. Should be a good game to know against two rivals. So let's go on to the next game, which is another rivalry game in the NFC East. It is the Washington football team, who are 6-10, against the New York Giants, who are 4-12, and the Giants are 7-point underdogs here. So this is the last game as the Washington football team, as that their name. Very exciting stuff. I should have put that up ahead. They're going to announce the news on February 2nd, 2022. So right before the Super Bowl, they will be announcing their new name, which is thank God, because the football team is just ridiculous and stupid. There's a rumor that it's going to be the Washington Armada, which I'm not really a big fan of, but it's better. Anything's better than the football team. Let's keep it real. So the key synopsis here is last year these two teams were the top two teams in the NFC East. Now they are at the bottom. What does the future hold for these teams? So Washington won the division last year at 7-9, and the Giants are right behind them at 6-10. So those are two pretty bad records. But the point is that these two teams were at the top of the division, now they're at the bottom. The Giants were supposed to ride a very good defense into the season, and it's really just not has showed up, and their offense has looked terrible. And Washington, on the other hand, has been using Taylor Heineke for the most part, and he's kind of proved that he is not their answer at quarterback. They signed him last year to a 2-year deal after their wild card game with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's just not been proven out to be good. So they are in the market for a quarterback. So, Joey, my question for you is, what does the future hold for these two teams? Do you think these two teams are close to contention in the next couple of years? Do you think Washington will make a playoff push sooner rather than later? What about the Giants? Just give me your thoughts on the futures of these two teams.
Yeah, so I think Washington. I think they definitely need a new name, and they also need a new stadium, because there's a lot of problems with that. But I think both these teams. I mean, I don't want to say they're similar, but they both, in my opinion, need a quarterback. And whether they're going to address that in upcoming draft or free agency, there's great free agent quarterbacks available, especially with Russell Wilson. I don't think he's going to come back as a Seahawk. I know Daniel Jones. I mean, he hasn't been that bad, but I mean, I feel like if you get like a really solid quarterback that doesn't really turn the ball over, doesn't make many mistakes, maybe is a more of a higher ceiling. If you get and you can kind of build around him, I think that'll be a lot better. And I think the Giants coaching staff, I think they need to get new coaching staff that know how to make better moves. And I mean, signing Kelly Golladay, that big of a deal, and he's not getting any numbers. I don't think he has a touchdown pass, does he, this year? Which is kind of ridiculous.
Who Kenny Golladay?
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't have a single touchdown catch.
I don't know if he's been out or anything, but I mean, that's his bad ownership. That's his bad coaching. That's his bad all around. I mean, that just tells you that you got a guy like Kenny Golladay. He doesn't have a touchdown reception. Something's wrong with your coaching, and I feel like they got to change that. Hopefully, they get rid of the Joe Judge, the wannabe Belichick. Hope they get him out of there. And Washington, I think Tyler Heineke. I think he's a decent quarterback, but he's definitely not a starter in this league. I think maybe a backup. You've seen flashes of what he could do, but I just don't feel like he's the solution for Washington. I know Chase Young has been out for the Washington football team all year long, which has been a big loss and a big effect to their defense. But I still think that losing that guy, I still don't think affects your entire season. So I feel like both these teams possibly could rebuild, possibly look for a new quarterback.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Most of these games, guys, a bunch of teams that really don't have anything to play for, i.e. this one. We're going to really talk about the future, because, like, what's the point of talking about this season when their season's essentially over? So for this game, I got the Washington football team winning their final game as the football team. I think Washington wins this game 17-10. What about you, Joey?
Yeah, so Shane's pick is Washington 24-10. I agree with that as well. Unfortunately, I don't think the Giants are going to win any more games. Hopefully they get a high draft pick. Maybe they get a quarterback, or do something at free agency. Who knows? But I got the Washington football team winning this one.
lead us into our next game, Joey, for us. And this is another big game. This is an AFC North battle between the Steelers and the Ravens. And the Ravens are 3.5-point favorites.
Yeah, so Steelers sitting there 8-7-1, Ravens 8-8. Both teams kind of having disappointing seasons. This is possibly or probably is Big Ben's last game of his career. I remember last week he had a kind of an emotional game, his last home game, and might be his last game like ever. So probably another emotional game against a rival opponent versus Baltimore. The Steelers can make this playoffs, but it's really slim odds. Me personally, like I don't think it happened. I don't think it could happen, but honestly, who knows? Anything could happen. It's going to be interesting to see what the Steelers do at the quarterback position if Big Ben leaves. Are they going to, promote, Rudolph? Are they going to get somebody in the draft? Are they going to get somebody free agency? I know maybe if Aaron Rodgers leaves, I think he would be a good fit in Pittsburgh. I think even Russell Wilson would be. Who knows? Maybe they get Teddy Bridgewater. Who knows? I honestly don't know. And the Ravens, I kind of feel bad for them a little bit because it seems like they've been having a lot of injuries this year. And not only like at the running back position, but now and even secondary. And now the quarterback Lamar Jackson has been out for a while, which has cost him a couple games. So this season it could have been a lot better for the Ravens, in my opinion. They could have more wins. So yeah. But I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Steelers winning 30-20. Me personally, I think that's a good pick. I think the Steelers, I think they're going to rally behind Ben Roethlisberger. I know the Ravens are hungry for a win as well, but I just think that this team is going to win it for Big Ben.
This would be a good game, anytime the Ravens play the Steelers, that's one of my favorite rivalries in the NFL. And this is a very hard-nosed, hard-fought battle. It's going to be a close one. I know I always dog on the Steelers, but it will be it's going to be an emotional game. Big Ben. We all grew up with Big Ben. When you think of the Steelers, the younger generation, like our generation, Joey, the kids slightly older than us, Big Ben has been the quarterback for the Steelers. And it's going to be weird seeing a quarterback for the Steelers that's not Big Ben. So it'll be interesting. Another key thing here is, will TJ Watt break the single-season sack record? That is going to be a key thing to watch. He is a sack away from tying it, and he's a sack and a half away from breaking it. Michael Strahan's record of like 21 or 22 and a half in the season. So we could see history here too. The single-season sack record being broken would be really cool to see in Big Ben's last game. Unfortunately, I think the Ravens are going to end the season on a high note. Both of these teams have slim chances of making the playoffs. I think the Ravens have to win, plus the Colts have to lose, plus the Ravens plus the Chargers and the Raiders have to tie or something crazy like that. Same thing for the Steelers. So both of these teams most likely won't make the playoffs. It's more like, can the Ravens spoil Big Ben's last game ever, and can Big Ben win his last game? Unfortunately, I think the Ravens are going to win 21-20. I think John Harbaugh and Tyler Huntley will rally around, even though they've been, like you said, they've been battling injuries. I think they're going to rally, and they're going to win 21-20 in their last home game of the season and their Big Ben's last game of his career. So next game we got is another AFC North battle between the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 10-6, against the Cleveland Browns, who are 7-9, and the Browns are 6-point favorites. So again, we're not going to really talk about this one for a lot because each team is not starting their quarterback. Baker Mayfield finally got surgery on his labrum. He was playing with a torn labrum the whole season, and he finally has gotten it fixed. And there's been rumors that Baker Mayfield wants a trade. He wants out of Cleveland, but he's publicly denounced them and said those aren't true, so I won't really talk about them. And Joe Burrow won't be playing for the Bengals, among other key players, such as, I think Joe Mixon's not playing. Jesse Bates, I don't think, is playing. Trey Hendrickson's not playing. There's a bunch of players for the Bengals who aren't playing, either due to rest or due to COVID. So my question for you, Joey, is how do you think each team will play without their starting quarterbacks? For the Bengals, it's going to be Brandon Allen. And for the Browns, it's going to be Case Keenum. And my other question for you is, how does both teams' futures look? Do you think both teams are going to have a good, illustrious future, kind of like I can't really think right now. I guess, like the Titans kind of, where they're kind of like or not like the Titans, but you know what I'm saying, like a younger team that has a lot of promise. Do you think both of these teams will be like that, or no?
I think the Bengals have a bright future. It's kind of crazy to see, where they came from having the first pick, and now, it seems like starting to pay off. So yeah, I think the Bengals are going to have a bright future. The Browns is kind of up in the air. If I were the Browns, I wouldn't panic. I would stay remain calm. Don't fully rebuild yet. You still got Myles Garrett. You still got some talent. I would and you got Nick Chubb, who's a great running back. Me personally, I would try to just build around those guys. And if that means getting rid of Baker Mayfield, then yeah, I would do it. Do I think he's necessarily the problem? No, but I also don't think he's a solution either. So I would just maybe move on from him. Maybe get some draft capital. Maybe trade him for another quarterback with the picks or something along those lines. And how will they play with their starting quarterbacks? I think the Browns. I don't think the Browns will really play it much differently. I mean, Baker Mayfield has been playing well, so I mean, it doesn't really take much effort to really play on his level because he's just been bad. And also, the Browns are a run-heavy team, so really all the backup has to do, Case Keenum or Nick Mullins, whatever. He just needs to hand the ball off. I mean, I watched him against the Raiders. I mean, he barely passed it. I mean, just get it to Nick Chubb, and that's really it. The Bengals, I don't know. I can't remember who their backup is, but I mean, I don't know who their starters are playing. I don't know how many starters are playing. But I actually, I don't think I think it's going to be a really low scoring game. I think it's going to be very, very low. What do you think about that, Will?
Somewhat. I think the Browns are going to end up winning with the score of 23-17, and kind of like what you said, do their run game, their run attack. But like you said with Baker Mayfield, I think there's a lot of questions regarding him. I think Baker, maybe you trade him for quarterback or for capital. I'm not really too sure, but there's a lot of questions surfacing around Baker Mayfield in his future with the Browns. But we'll see where the offseason leads us to the Browns. I feel like he's not the only reason why the Browns had a disappointing season, but that's my opinion. So what did Shane say about this game? Who's he got winning?
Shane's got the Bengals 20-14. Honestly, I could see this game going either way. I just think it's going to be a little more. I think it's going to be less scoring than that. But that's just my opinion.
So our next game we have, which I'll have Joey take the cake after I do the little intro, is we got the Packers and NFC North battle. Packers, who were 13, yeah, 13-3 against the Detroit Lions, who were 2-13-1. And surprisingly, the Lions are only 3-point underdogs here. So I'll have Joey take it from here.
Yeah, so this game doesn't really matter at all. But we have Aaron Rodgers is playing. He's starting at quarterback, which I know the Packers want to keep the momentum going into the playoffs. I'm not a huge fan. If I was the Packers, if you really wanted to play him, I would play him maybe for a quarter or two and then bench him. You don't want to risk anything. This game doesn't really mean much. I mean, if you lose your starting quarterback, especially Aaron Rodgers, probably one of the best in the league, maybe MVP, you're the most valuable player. I would not want to take a risk and lose him. I would kind of, get him warmed up a little bit, but also want to preserve him for the playoffs. I think that's the smartest thing to do if you're the Packers. And Lions, just try to play football today or tomorrow. Just try to play football. Try to win the game. Just, I don't really know about the Lions. I don't really know what the future. I don't really know what the future looks like. Are they going to keep their head coach? I don't know if they're going to keep Jared Goff. I really don't know. I think their ownership is just, they just care about money. They don't really care about, winning football games. They just care about selling jerseys. But that's just my opinion. So Shane's pick here, he's got the Packers winning 24-10. I think that's a really respectable kind of pick. I do think the Packers are going to win this game, and I'm not sure the Lions are going to do that much.
I also think the Packers are going to win this game 27-17 as they prepare for another deep playoff push where hopefully A-Rod can finally get past the NFC title game and make it to the Super Bowl. Our next game is an AFC South battle. Like every single game this week is in a divisional matchup. So, these are all going to be good division rivalry games between the Tennessee Titans, who are 11-5 against the Houston Texans, who are 4-12, and the Texans are 10-point underdogs. So the Titans can clinch a number one seed in the AFC with a win, which is crazy. And will star running back Derrick Henry return for the Titans? He will not. I just got that notification on Bleacher Report that he will return for the wild card game. He's up and practicing and stuff, but they just want to save him, not the wild card, for the first round bye. So Derrick Henry will be back, which is crazy that the Titans are most likely, unless they get upset. Hey, it happened before, but Texans did beat the Titans before, I believe. So this is not as clean cut as it seems, but it's crazy to think that the Titans, without Derrick Henry for most of the season, will clinch the one seed in the AFC. So what are your thoughts on Derrick Henry returning for the Titans, Joey? Do you think he'll have the same? I mean, he broke a bro in his foot. Do you think that'll impact him, or do you think he'll be back to his old self?
I think Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry, and I think if his foot was broken, I think he would still want to go out there and play, and I think he would still go out there and dominate. He's just that he's just a beast, man. He's just a total athlete, and he's one of the best running backs in the league, if not the best. And I know that he would do that for his team, but I don't think he's going to play this game. I think he'll rest him one more game. But to answer your question, I think he's going to come back full force, especially for the playoffs, and I think that's just what he does. And I like him a lot, and I think he'll return for the playoffs definitely.
Yeah, so I think the Titans are going to win this game 31-10. Again, there's really not much to talk about. The Titans are about to clinch the 1 seed unless they get upsetted. It'll be a good game to watch for the Titans, see what Ryan Tannehill can do with A.J. Brown and Julio. Very disappointed what I've seen from Julio this year. Very, very disappointed. But regardless, Titans win 31-10.
Yeah, and I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Titans winning 30-10. I think the Titans are going to spill. The Texans are going to score a little more points. Mills Mafia. I think he's going to drop some dimes. But no, I still think the Tennessee Titans are going to win the game.
So the next game, which I'll have Joey, again, let me just read off the spread and all that. We got the Colts, who are 9-7, versus the Jaguars, who are 2-14. And this is the biggest spread this week, or my bad, the second biggest. The Jaguars are 15-point underdogs. So I'll let you take it from here, Joey, between the Colts and the Jaguars.
Yeah, so this is actually, I know this game doesn't really seem like much, but this is actually a really interesting game because it affects a lot of things that happen in the AFC. If the Jaguars, I'm pretty sure the Colts never beat the Jaguars since 2014 or something like that. I don't know if that's in Jacksonville. Yeah, in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville, yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of crazy to think about. Like, since 2014, that's wild. That's like, what is
7
that,
years?
8 years?
8 years?
Oh, my God,
years.
yeah. I'm getting old. But, yeah, that's a long time ago. And, I think the Colts, unfortunately, they're gonna break that kind of curse almost, if you say that. But if the Jaguars win this game, it kind of opens up some opportunities for a team maybe like Pittsburgh Ravens and even the Raiders and Chargers. I mean, if the Jaguars win, then I think possibly the Chargers and Raiders both get in, and I think and they possibly could tie and both get in. It's kind of wild that the Jaguars win, but
it's like this. Let me just if I could just intervene real quick. If the Jaguars win, then it's like this. So if the Jaguars win, then the Colts are not out yet. Then it's hard. It's really confusing. But essentially, it's like this: if the Jaguars win, the Raiders and the Chiefs, or the Raiders and the Texans. Oh my God, the Raiders and the Chargers.
Texans.
Texans. I'm just saying random football teams. The Texans, the Chargers. If the Raiders and the Chargers tie, then they're in the playoffs, right? With a lose. So if the Colts lose to the Jaguars, then their playoff chances go down to 11%. Right now they're at like a 96, right? So if that's the case, that opens a case for the Steelers to make the playoffs, right? So let's say if the Colts lose and the Raiders win, the Raiders are in the playoffs, right? So then if the Ravens win, then the Ravens aren't in the playoffs, right? It's confusing stuff, isn't it? So a lot of stuff has to happen. It's really, really confusing. I really don't want to get into it. But think of it like this. If the Colts lose, then essentially the Steelers would get into the playoffs, right? Because then if they beat the Ravens. If the Colts lose and the Chargers and the Raiders tie, then they're both in the playoffs. So it's very confusing. But like you said, Joey, it doesn't seem like a good matchup on paper. But, I mean, this is going to open up a lot of – it'll open Pandora's box if the Jaguars do win. Unfortunately, I don't think the Jaguars will win. I just think they're a very disappointing football team. I had high hopes for Trevor Lawrence and them. I think the Colts are going to win 30-6.
Yeah, so I got Shane's pick right here. Colts 28-7. I think that's a good pick. Who knows what the future is for Trevor Lawrence. We've seen rookie quarterbacks have a bad rookie year, and they come back and do very well, like Peyton Manning, for example. But it's still very concerning. I think Jacksonville's got to get a new head coach. New GM, new everything, and then they can kind of build around Trevor Lawrence, and then we can evaluate him then. But I see the Colts win this game.
So our next game is another meaningless game in a way. It's going to be the Chicago Bears, who are 6-10, against the Minnesota Vikings, who are 7-9, and the Vikings are 5-point favorites. So the question here is: this going to be the last game for Matt Nagy, head coach of the Bears, and Mike Zimmer, head coach of the Vikings, as head coaches for their respective teams? What do you think, Joey? I personally think yes. What do you think?
I think so too. I think the Vikings, they've been kind of mediocre. And the Bears as well, they're just not getting anything done. I mean, they had a really dominant defense, and their offense haven't gotten anything done for so long. So I think, yeah, both these, especially Matt Nagy, I don't think he's going to be around much longer. And Matt Zimmer, who knows? They might bring him back, but I doubt it. I think the Vikings are tired of being, 500. I think they want to win some more football games, want to make the playoffs. So yeah, I think both these head coaches are going to be on their way out soon. Like you said, another meaningless game. Nobody really cares about. I don't think even the fans really care. But I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Vikings winning 26-10. I think that's a good pick. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, just real quick, I really feel like with the right coaching, I think the Vikings can be a very good team. I think that's what holds them back is the coaching. If you look on paper, man, they got a great team with Cousins and Jefferson and Thielen and Cook. Their defense led by Eric Kendricks and Harrison Smith. I really think this team can be good. I think their coaching holds them back. So now I think that next year will be the Vikings' year to be a real threat that they should be. Vikings win 26-17. And hopefully Mike Zimmer and Matt Nagy are out for both of these teams' sakes. So next game we got up is the New Orleans Saints, who are 8-8, versus the Atlanta Falcons, who are 7-9, and the Falcons are 3.5-point underdogs here. So this is another playoff implication match, the first one we've seen in the NFC. So I'll have you take it from here, Joey, as the Saints are fighting for a playoff spot while the Falcons are trying to play spoiler.
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy to think the Saints are still in playoff contention, even though they're on their third string quarterback. It's absolutely crazy. This goes to show how well their defense has played all season. So the playoff hopes are on the line to take on the Falcons. Is this Matt Ryan's last game as the Atlanta Falcon? I think that's a really good question. And I think it really could be, honestly. I think the Falcons, they're time to move on from, Matt Ryan. I think you got to kind of, I don't want to say rebuild, but you almost have to. You almost got to get a new quarterback in, maybe possibly a younger quarterback out of the draft with a lower contract. You can kind of save that money that you would have gotten for, you would have paid for Matt Ryan, and kind of use that money to kind of build around. Maybe get a new wide receiver, because there was news the other day that Calvin Ridley might be parting ways with the Falcons, which would be a huge loss. So I think you almost have to do that, almost have to rebuild, and kind of get a younger team, get more fresh, kind of get these guys on cheaper deals. And the Saints, I think they really could win this game, just based off their defense has been playing very dominant. I don't know who's going to be starting quarterback for the Saints. I don't know if it's going to be Taysom Hill. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be Ian Book, but who knows? I have Shane. I think somebody else is going to start, but I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Falcons winning 21-20, and I would, me personally, I think the Saints are going to win. I think they're going to win a close game though, and I think they're just barely going to win. What do you think, Will?
Yeah, so this is going to be a very good game. I think the Falcons. I'm a big Matt Ryan fan. I'm a big supporter of Matt Ryan. I think he's been he's been shit on for part of my language, but he's been disrespected his whole career. He's a great quarterback. And if I had to make a prediction, if you had to tell me, Will, if you asked me, Joey, Will, where do you think Matt Ryan's going to go? I say Washington. That might be a little bit of a wow. But, if you think of it on paper, Washington has good weapons. They got Curtis Samuel. They got Terry McLaurin. They got Logan Thomas, who is hurt, but, he's a good tight end when he's healthy. And then you got Matt Ryan, who is a very solid quarterback, and I really feel like he could be, a bridge quarterback. Have Matt Ryan for like 2 years. If you win with him, you win. If you don't, then you draft one. So I think Matt Ryan is quarterback tier wise. I think he's if he's top 10, he's like 10 on the money, or like right outside the top 10. I think he's still pretty good. You look at his numbers this year. He's been kind of he's struggling a little bit. He's been playing all right, but his best receiver has been Kyle Pitts, which is nothing against Kyle Pitts. I think he's a beast. But, his number one receiver goes down, and now he has to kind of adjust to that. So, Matt Ryan, he's thrown for about 3,700 yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. The touchdowns are a little low, but I don't know. I think Matt Ryan's overall is still pretty good. Last time he played the Saints, he torched them, 343 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I think Matty Ice does that once again. I think Matty Ice will torch the Falcons and potentially, or the Saints, my bad, will torch the Saints, and potentially his last game as a Falcon in the Superdome or the Georgia Dome, or wherever the hell they played in Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. I think the Falcons win this game 24-21. So our next game we got is an NFC West battle between the Seattle Seahawks, who are 6-10, and the 11-5 Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals are 5.5-point favorites here. So if the Cardinals win and the Rams lose, they have a shot at winning the NFC West. Can they beat the lowly Seahawks? The Seahawks have been very disappointing this year. As you know, Russell Wilson's finger injury definitely messed up their whole season. But Joey, my question for you about this game is, do you think the Cardinals have a chance to make a deep playoff run? By deep, I mean potentially making the NFC title game, or do you think their first round exits, or how far do you think the Cardinals will go into the playoffs?
I think it all depends on who they play. I think if they play a team like maybe like the Buccaneers, I think they would lose. But maybe if they play a team like the Eagles, they would have a better shot. I don't really know personally. I think it can go either way. I mean, they have a lot of talent, especially with Watt coming back. I think that helps them out a lot on defense. But I think it depends all on the coach. I mean, the coach for Cardinals, I mean, he's able to have a lot of talent around Kyler Murray, even on the defensive side of the ball. But is he going to be able to win playoff games? We're gonna find it out this year. But we'll talk a little bit about the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, this may be his last game as a Seahawk, which is kind of crazy to think about because Seattle's been good for so long, and now Russell Wilson might be on his last game with the Seahawks. It's kind of crazy to think about. And I personally think he's going to move on. Tyler Lockett, this is also the last year of his contract. He's going to be a free agency. He's going to be a free agent after the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the Seahawks. But we got Shane's pick right here. He has the Cardinals winning 35-24. I think that's a good prediction. I think this is I think Seahawks are going to kind of collapse this game, and you'll see the Seahawks kind of have their downfall. Everything just go downhill from here. You're going to see Russell Wilson leave, Tyler Lockett, and they're just going to go down.
Yeah, so I think the Cardinals are going to win this game 24-17, a little bit closer. I think we'll have to see how deep the playoffs the Cardinals can make it. I mean, we've seen what they did early on. They have the potential to make a deep run. It'll just see if Kyler Murray can do it. And I think he is the X factor, is Kyler Murray. And I think the Cardinals are going to win this game 24-17 as they prepare for their deep playoff push. So our next game we have here is an AFC East battle between the New York Jets, who are 4-12, against the Buffalo Bills, who are 10-6, and the Bills are 16-point favorites. So Joey, go ahead and just tell us about this game. I know, again, on paper it doesn't really seem like a lot, but the Bills can clinch the AFC East if they beat the Jets. So just give me your thoughts. Do you think the Bills do it? Do you think the Bills get upset by the Jets? Just give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so the Bills didn't have the season that they necessarily wanted. Obviously 10-6. I mean, last year they had a lot better record. They had some losses, especially to Jacksonville, and that one Patriots loss that they probably shouldn't have had. And so they can clinch the AFC East if they just win this one game, and I think they could do it. Josh Allen, in my opinion, hasn't been playing that well at quarterback lately, so it's going to depend on him. I think we know what he can do. He's going to have to show out for this game, definitely. And I got Shane's pick right here. So you got the Bills, 30-27. I think it's going to be a little less scoring than that, but I do like the prediction of the Bills winning.
Yeah, so I think the Bills are going to win as well. The thing is I don't really know what Josh Allen are we getting? Are we going to get the MVP Josh Allen, or are we going to go into a slump Josh Allen? I love Josh Allen. Every quarterback has their slumps. That's just a fact. I mean, Tom Brady has them. Everyone does. But I think the Bills are finally clicking, and he's finally out of his slump. I know he threw 2 picks last week against the Falcons, I believe, or maybe 1. But I think finally that besides those picks, that Josh Allen is finally kind of out of his slump that he had from last couple weeks. As you can see, with the Buccaneers, he led that comeback, and I think that's what started it all. When they almost beat the Buccaneers in overtime, I feel like since that happened, Josh Allen has been clicking. And I think the Bills are one of the hottest, if not the hottest teams in the AFC right now. Maybe them or the Colts, or even the Raiders. The Raiders are on a roll as well. So I think the Bills are going to win this game 34-14 as they prepare for a deep playoff push. And if the cards align correctly, they'll face their old rival, the New England Patriots, in the first round. So let's get into our next game against the Carolina Panthers, who are 5-11, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 12-4. And surprisingly, the Buccaneers are only 8-point favorites. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers are looking to close out strong against the struggling Panthers. How will the Buccaneers offense be impacted without Antonio Brown? Now, I feel like people are really kind of underlying how much Antonio Brown helped the Buccaneers, especially with Chris Godwin being out for the season. I think it's going to be a tough loss for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Mike Evans is a dog. I love Mike Evans, but the fact is that, Mike Evans doesn't really have a lot of support around him now. I like Scotty Miller in the slot. I think he's all right. But without Chris Godwin and AB, I really feel like that is going to be the Achilles heel that prevents the Buccaneers from defending their title successfully. And that's really going to hurt them. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think the Buccaneers are going to be fine in the playoffs, or do you think losing AB and Chris Godwin will be like their Achilles heel in the postseason?
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that point. I think it is going to be a big loss, but I don't think it's going to really affect Tampa Bay that much. I think Mike Evans, he's a true number one wide receiver. He's been a stud. He's been balling. I think the scheme that the Buccaneers have, I mean, any wide receiver can really succeed in it. And not only do they have Mike Evans, but they also have Rob Gronkowski, who is kind of underrated these days. So I think they'll be just fine without him. The defense has been playing so well. I think they'll be just fine. They just got to remain calm and use the weapons that they have, because I think with the team that they have right now, I think they can go back-to-back Super Bowls. I really believe that. I don't think nobody can really stop their defense, and when their offense gets going, I mean, even despite having Godwin out and now AB, I think Mike Evans and Gronkowski, I think they're gonna be able to step up and play well.
Yeah, and it'll be tough though. Like, I'm a big fan of Mike Evans, and I'm not trying to say that I don't think he can do it, but it's a tough loss. That is just there's no way around it. It's a tough loss. It's kind of like the Cowboys losing Michael Gallup. If they lost Michael Gallup and CeeDee Lamb, how would Amari Cooper react? They did lose a Michael Gallup, so will that bring question for the Cowboys? Or another example would be the Bengals. What happens if they lost T. Higgins? I'm steering off topic here, but my point is that losing two of your best receivers hurts any team. But luckily, the Buccaneers are just loaded at depth, where hopefully Mike Evans can still play great, which I think he will. I know he has a lingering hamstring issue, but I don't think that'll matter. And also pertaining to the Buccaneers, that Tom Brady is going to throw for 5,000 yards at the age of 44 baffles me. I love Tom Brady. How can you hate him? At this point, how can you hate him? He's going to throw. I mean, as long as he doesn't throw for 9 yards, he will do it. So, I mean, throwing for 5,000 yards as a 44-year-old quarterback and being so far, unless another quarterback passes him, the only quarterback to have 40 touchdowns this year is insane. Insane. So I think the Buccaneers are going to win this game. Tom Brady, TB12 to go, 31-17. But like I said, in my opinion, how will AB and Chris Godwin's loss affect this team? It won't affect them this week, but will affect them in the playoffs. We won't know. But right now, 31-17, Tampa Bay. What is Shane's pick, Joey?
Yeah, so Shane's pick is Buccaneers 29-13, and I agree with that. I can't stand Tom Brady. I really don't. I think he's really lucky. I think he always has a great situation around him. But I still think he's the GOAT. I still think you can't take away from what he's done. And, if I had to pick between Aaron Rodgers and him, I'd obviously take Aaron Rodgers. But from a legacy standpoint and from what he's been able to accomplish, I think Tom Brady is still definitely the GOAT.
Next game we got here is Brady's old team, the New England Patriots, who are 10-6 versus the Miami Dolphins, are 8-8, and the Dolphins are 6.5-point underdogs. So leads into this game, Joey, is the Dolphins' win streak last week was snapped, and they unfortunately will not make the playoffs. So just lead us into this game. What's on the stakes? What's on the line here between these rivals?
The Dolphins actually beat them earlier in the year, if you guys remember that. And this is a big game for the Patriots. It's going to be interesting. They can clinch the AFC East with this. They need some help from the Jets, obviously, to beat the Bills. Fortunately, I don't see that happening, but honestly, who knows? So can the Dolphins beat the Pats 3 times in a row? Me personally, I think they could, but I don't really think they will. I think, I don't think you can really beat the Patriots 3 times in a row. I think Bill Belichick, he'll come up with a scheme. He'll come up with a plan to beat the Dolphins. I think they won enough games in a row. They're not going to win this one. So I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Patriots winning 28-21. I like that pick a lot. I think that's just going to happen. Yeah. So Joey, what do you think about Tua? Do you think Tua is going to be the long-term answer at quarterback for the Dolphins or not? Because I mean, this has been happening ever since last year. People are not a fan of Tua Tagovailoa, and personally, I don't think he's the best. I think he's all right, but I think the Dolphins, it'll be a very they're going to be kicking themselves
for not taking Justin Herbert over Tua. But what are your thoughts on Tua in general? Do you think he's going to be good? You think he's good? I mean, one thing we can't deny about Tua is up until last week, he was the most accurate quarterback in football. Yes, Tua Tagovailoa was the most accurate quarterback in football until last week. He completing 68% of your passes, regardless if they're checkdowns or not. I mean, who the hell cares realistically? You're just a hater if you really hate on him for doing that. It matters. I think Tua is a good quarterback to an extent. I don't think he's a long-term answer like I'm saying, but I think for the time being, he's their guy. I mean, you can't deny the fact that they went on a 6 or 7 game win streak when Tua was their quarterback. So I think if Tua works on his little bit of an arm strength more, because I think that's why some people think Jacoby Brissett is better than Tua because he's got a bigger arm. But what are your thoughts on Tua? Do you think he'll be a fine quarterback or no?
So I kind of have a similar situation. I think it's kind of a similar situation, kind of with Baker Mayfield and Cleveland. I think he's not the problem, but he's also not the solution. I know, like you said, he's been accurate, but he's got a noodle arm, and his turnovers are really ugly. I mean, you'll see some of his throws and be like, what is he thinking? And then some of his throws be like, well, what a nice pass. It's just kind of inconsistency. It's kind of, I'm not sure he has a high enough ceiling to be that starter quarterback and franchise quarterback that you want necessarily, So, I don't think he's that great. I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback, but I'm just not saying I don't think he's the future of Miami. I still think you try to build around him a little bit, try to give him some weapons, and then see what he can do. But if he still can't perform to the level that you want him to be a franchise quarterback, then I say you move on from him. But yeah, this is my opinion.
One thing about Tua that I think not Henderson, but is affecting him or to an extent, I guess, whatever, is that his mobility. Now, Tua is not Lamar Jackson-ish, but I really feel like that when he broke his hip in college, that affected his draft stock, in my opinion. And it is what it is, because Tua is like a very mobile quarterback. He doesn't really run around, but he has a good pocket presence, like Aaron Rodgers. He can extend a play. That's what he did at Alabama. But unfortunately, it seems like he doesn't really do that as much because of his broken hip. Now, if you flip it around to what we could see from Tua, I think that he has the potential. But I think that best he'll be a game manager. But I don't think he's a bad quarterback, to say the least. You can't deny the fact that he was like a Heisman Trophy finalist. He led Alabama to the college football championship in 2017, coming in for Jalen Hurts. You can't deny all that, So I think one part that people, I know we're going off topic, so I'll make this real quick. One part that people don't think he's a franchise quarterback is because he's left-handed. Isn't that crazy? Because he's left-handed, their whole offense is not good. And I guess that makes sense to an extent because the whole playbook is flipped. So but regardless, enough about talking about Tua. I think the Patriots win this game 24-21. And what should be a very interesting game, to say the least. Quick break of my water. Now, last we've got 2 more games. Both are going to be out west games. And this is, Joey's team is coming up next with the Raiders. But before that, we got to talk about the Niners. The San Francisco 49ers are 9-7. And the Los Angeles Rams are 12-4. And the Rams are 4-point favorites. So can the 49ers beat the Rams for a 6th straight time and clinch a playoff berth? The 49ers have had their number recently, the Rams, and it's kind of odd because the Rams are the Rams. They're arguably the NFC favorite behind the Packers, the Buccaneers. But what are your thoughts on this game, Joey? Do you think the 49ers can pull off the upset and clinch a playoff berth, or do you think they're going to have to get some help from the Falcons beating the Saints to get in the playoffs?
Do I think the 49ers can beat the Rams? I totally think they can. I think they have a really talented team with George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, even the rookie running back, Elijah Mitchell. He's been really, really underrated as well. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with the quarterback position. I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance, but you can't deny the talent that they have around him, and they just need to do their jobs. And I feel like they can come away and win this game. And, for the Rams, Matthew Stafford, he's been playing well, but he's just been turning the ball over a lot. And I feel like with this, with the weapons that the 49ers have and on defense as well, that they'll be able to take advantage of that and put up some points against the Rams. So that's why I think the 49ers could actually clinch the playoff spot with this win. So I got Shane's pick right here. He's got the Rams winning 30-24. Actually, I disagree with this. I think the 49ers are going to win. But what do you think, Will?
Yeah, this is going to be a good game. I like what I saw from Trey Lance last week. I know a lot of people don't know a lot about Trey Lance, and it was a very risky pick, but I really like the pick a lot. We haven't seen a lot from him. That's a fact. But the fact is that they won a game. Granted, yes, is it the Houston Texans? Yes, that's a fact. But I think that if there was any time where Jimmy Garoppolo was down, and another key factor here is that I forgot to mention is that Kyle Shanahan is not announcing a starting quarterback, which I'm really hoping he puts in Jimmy Garoppolo because, Trey Lance has only started 2 games. And granted, he looked okay both games. I think that he's not ready yet. I really do not think he is ready yet, personally. Trey Lance completed 70% of his passes for about 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, a pick, also added 31 yards on the ground. So I think Trey Lance is not ready yet. But Kyle Shanahan is not committing to either quarterback. He's not committing to Garoppolo nor Lance. So it's basically a game-time decision who's playing. But, Joey, who do you think is better suited to play for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo or Trey Lance?
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron
Rodgers. But I think I know I'm a little harsh on Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. I said I don't really think they're both really going to be long term for this team. But I don't think it's really fair to Trey Lance because I haven't really seen him play that much. He hasn't really gotten much opportunities. So I think only time will tell with that. Who knows? Maybe he comes out and next year and balls out. Because some guys maybe in the offseason, they work out, they practice, get to know their team better, and they just get some experience and they play a lot better. So but who knows? I think you move on from Jimmy Garoppolo this season. I know some people might not agree with that, but I think you do. I think you see what you got in Trey Lance. See what he does for an entire season, and then you can potentially make your decision on basically like who he is as a quarterback and if he's the guy that you want. So we got, I think we already said the pick, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read mine. I think I agree with Joey. I disagree with Shane. I don't think the Rams will win this game. They've had their number. I think the Rams are going to make a deep playoff run. I don't think this loss will discourage them, but I think the 49ers will win this game 28-24. And as it'll be a very good game, and my opinion, the second best game of the week besides the Sunday Night Football primetime, which Joey, I'll just have you take it, man. I know you love the Raiders, so go ahead, tell us about this game, man.
Yeah, so we got the Chargers 9-7, we got the Raiders 9-7. I hate the Chargers so much, but you can't deny that they're a good football team. For 3 straight weeks, the Raiders have won games that they needed to win. And surprisingly, it hasn't been Derek Carr winning these games. It's been the defense, and it's been Hunter Renfrow. It's been some of the weapons that they have. I mean, they've been able to play, obviously, with the Ruggs situation, you guys already know. And Waller's been injured, and he's been out with COVID for a while. So he hasn't been really playing a lot of games for the Raiders either. So, and they've been still winning football games. So I think this is a really winnable game for the Raiders. I mean, especially with Darren Waller getting back. This is easily the most important game of the season. And I feel like this game really dictates. I know people might not agree, but I think this game really dictates Derek Carr's future. If you can't win a playoff game, when will he win a playoff game? This is the time when you need him the most. We've seen midseason collapses for 2 straight years. Raiders fans are tired of it. They deserve better than this. And is Derek Carr gonna get to the playoffs? Who knows? I think if he does, I think you keep him. And I think if he doesn't, I say move on from him. I know it's kind of harsh, but I think that's just how you got to go with it. What do you think about that, Will?
Yeah, man, this is going to be a great game. I can't wait for this game. Not only because we did a podcast, dude, but I just can't wait to see this game. Winner take all. It's almost like a Game 7 in football or hockey or baseball. Game 7.
It's like a playoff game, yeah.
But it is a playoff game, basically. It's a play-in game. Whoever wins is in. There's no way around it. There's no way that one of these 2 teams will make the playoffs. It doesn't matter if the Jaguars beat the Colts and the Steelers somehow tie the Ravens or the craziest stuff could happen. But what we know for a fact is that one of these 2 teams is going to make the playoffs. The Chargers or the Raiders. They can tie, and I think they'll both make the playoffs under the correct conditions. So I just can't wait for this game. With the Chargers, they got Justin Herbie as I call him. Great young talent. I'm very excited for their future. the Chargers I think are better than their record shows. I think what's holding them back is their coaches taking too many risks. And what I mean by that is, key example was the Chiefs game. And what happened was, Brandon Staley, the rookie head coach, is going for it on fourth down. It'd be like 4th and 2 at the Chiefs 30-yard line, right? Easily in field goal range, but instead they want to go for it. So I think they're too risky with their play calling. Eventually you just got to modest up and say, all right, we're going to take the points. There's nothing wrong with kicking a field goal. And they would have beaten the Chiefs. That game would have never even went to overtime if they took their points. And the Chargers have also lost a couple bad games. They lose to the Cowboys on a field goal. They lose to the Patriots by a field goal. They get blown out by the Ravens. They get embarrassed by the Texans. So I think the Chargers are going to be there, but not this year. I think Brandon Staley will learn from his mistakes and next year. But I think this is the Raiders' game. They haven't lost a single game in 3 weeks. They've won their last 3. They rallied to beat the Colts for John Madden. That was pretty cool. And like you said, Joey, with all the drama that's happened with the Raiders, but John Gruden getting fired due to his racist or homophobic or his inappropriate remarks, from Henry Ruggs being selfish and getting in a DWI and killing somebody. Besides all of that, the Raiders can make the playoffs, and that is insane. And also insane is the fact that the Raiders have one of the worst point differentials in the NFL, and they're also can make the playoffs. They're minus 62, and they can still make the playoffs. That is crazy. Minus 68. That is crazy. So my final prediction here is I think the Raiders are going to win this game 24-21. You know what that means, Joey? That means Daddy Carlson's going to kick a game-winning field goal and send the Raiders to the playoffs in Allegiant Stadium, too.
I would love that.
You would love that?
Oh, yeah.
Would you cry?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'll have to get Carlson jersey, maybe.
You'd have to. I mean, how many games has Carlson won? First of all, him not making the Pro Bowl was a snub. All right.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
I remember.
I think.
No, sorry. You're good.
No, I was gonna say how many games has he won them? At least 3, 4 game-winning field goals.
Oh yeah, the beginning of the season. Yeah, they beat the Ravens off of a field goal. Beat the Browns off a field goal. Yeah, saw them beat Indianapolis off of a field goal.
Cowboys off a field goal.
Oh yeah, that's what is that 4?
The Dolphins off of a field goal.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their wins have been nail biters with Carlson coming down, and they almost beat Washington by a field goal. But regardless, what were you gonna say?
But yeah, I was gonna say he's been extremely clutch to the Raiders. He actually originally got drafted by the Vikings, and he played in a game, and he missed 3 field goals in one game, and they released him. And now he just signed I think an $8 or $9 million deal extension with the Raiders, which is kind of crazy to think about. Just shows you with hard work, dedication. You can come back from your mistakes. You could do better. And this game has a lot of incompletions about the playoffs. We're going to save that for the next bit, but the Chargers have been really successful. Mainly because they drafted a stud quarterback like Justin Herbert. And what's even insane is that he's been playing at a high level on a rookie contract. So they're able to save some of that money and build around him, which I think is they really hit a home run with that. And for the Raiders, you're gonna get Darren Waller come back. You gotta get Hunter Renfrow get Hunter Renfrow going, Darren Waller going, keep Deshaun Jackson on the field. The Chargers have a kind of a bad run defense, so the offensive line for the Raiders need to do well and block for Josh Jacobs and Payne Barber and whoever's in the backfield. But I could talk all day about this game. If you want to go see more, go to the podcast and me and Will run on ultimatesportsnetwork.com. But Shane's pick is the Chargers 31-30. Unfortunately, I have to agree. I think the Chargers will win this game. I just think that Chargers, I think they just have too much over the Raiders. Even though with some of the pieces coming back, I could see the Raiders winning, but I have to see it to believe it. I think Chargers are going to win this game.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Raiders are going to win off of a walk-off field goal again. I think that Carlson mania, man, 24-21 Raiders. I'm sticking by it.
I hope so.
So my game of the week is that one, the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Las Vegas Raiders. We just talked about it, man. The playoff, it's a play-in game. Whoever wins is in. Sunday night primetime, who wouldn't want to watch that game? What's Shane's game of the week, Joey?
Shane's game of the week is the Dallas Cowboys versus Philadelphia Eagles. I think this would be one of the games, or game of the week if it was like had major playoff implications. But I'm gonna have to disagree with that. I think the Chargers versus Raiders. I think that's a way much a bigger game. Sunday night has a lot of implications of what happens. That definitely is the game of the week in my opinion.
Yeah, and the picks record is going to be I'm 90-59 and Shane is 86-63. So I'm kind of widening the gap with that. But that is going to conclude Week 18 edition of the Gridiron Talk podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and thank you, Joey, for being filling in for Shane, dude. I really appreciate that.
I've been elevated from the practice squad on Gridiron Talk podcast.
The practice squad. No, you're kind of like Nick Foles, like Shane's Carson Wentz. He went down with the injury, and then you came in and won the Super Bowl.
I don't know. We're not in the Super Bowl, not in the playoffs yet, but maybe eventually.
So that's gonna conclude it. Next week, me or Shane, or me and Joey, or me, Joey, and Shane, we'll figure that out. We will be back for the playoff edition of the Gridiron Talk podcast, the wild card weekend edition, and we're getting to the nitty and gritty. I can't wait. It's gonna be a fun week of football, man. So we're gonna get into the playoff edition next week, and also, like Joey said, tomorrow we'll be recording our Raider Nation Today podcast, going more into detail on the Chargers and Raiders game. So if you guys love the Raiders, you want to hear more about the Raiders, check out that podcast for us. We will be going into more details than we did on this podcast. So, Joey, do you have anything else to add before we wrap up this episode?
Thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun with this podcast. Love talking about football. Go check out the Raiders podcast. Me and Will put a lot of hard work and time into that podcast, so it would mean a lot to us if you guys go check it out. But no, I want to thank Will for letting me on this podcast, and of course I'll be there making them thumbnails. I have fun doing it. It's and I hopefully I can even improve it someday. But yeah, I really got nothing else to say.
He's the brains behind the thumbnail magic. So don't forget to watch the football games tonight, guys. I know the Chiefs game will be about in half an hour. So watch the football games today, watch them tomorrow, and stay tuned for our next week. Hopefully, we're not going to do it on Saturday. Hopefully, it'll be like next Friday or next Thursday. But we'll keep you posted. Have a good weekend, guys, and don't forget to watch our mine and Joey's Raider Nations podcast tomorrow. Have a good one, guys.